Box office top 10. What do we have here? Roger says, I may be one of the small number of listeners who actually turn up the volume and listen intensely when the laughter lift section is introduced.
Oh, really?
We wouldn't want to miss any of the elevated hilarity. Ha, and indeed ha. However, my email today is to point out a mysterious coincidence I noticed whilst watching the second of a couple of recent films. It goes like this. In both cases, Margot Robbie plays an actress who visits a movie theatre to watch a film that she, the actress character, appears in.
Yes.
Also in both cases, Brad Pitt is in the Real World movie. You might want to put it into a quiz. But anyway, the two movies are obviously Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Babylon, which is true. Margot Robbie in both cases goes in to watch a movie in which she stars.
That's right. And Brad Pitt is in the Real World.
Hello to Jason Archibald Isaacs, a superb performance, by the way, and down with the usual suspects. Thank you, Roger. Jen says, heritage listener here, you may remember me as the intrepid American who purchased an all-region Blu-ray player of dubious origin so she could watch Bait during the COVID lockdown.
Yes.
Listening to the most recent extra takes, such excellent value, I really enjoyed your banter with Jason about his habit of telling people about the podcast. In 2019, Jason was a celebrity guest at my city's Comic-Con.
Wow.
Well,
was that because of Star Trek?
There is no explanation here, but one imagines so. While I waited in line, the assistant asked me what I wanted him to sign, and I explained that I was only there to say hello. She looked perplexed, but let me stay in line anyway. When it was my turn, I explained to him that I'm a member of the church, and I simply couldn't miss an opportunity to say hello. His face lit up, he shook my hand, and we spent a few lovely minutes talking about your show. I will never forget how gracious and charming he was. It felt like I had received a special sacrament in the church. The shows are a bright spot in my life. Many thanks to you and the excellent production staff for the good cheer you bring every week. Thank you, Jen. And Jason, if you're listening, that was just for you. But you are indeed a blessing. And he was great fun last week.
He was very good. I watched back on the YouTube, the laughter lift, which he was in.
Yes, he was very good.
And he was, yeah. And what did he say? The phrase he used was, you read the laughter lift like somebody doing a microphone tech.
Yeah, well, it's because I'm performing to an audience that doesn't appreciate it, and I know won't appreciate it. So I think that's basically the...
See how I feel.
So number 50.
See how I feel.
There's something in the barn.
I'll try it again. See how I feel.
Where is that? Is that number 49? Number 50. There's something in the barn.
I quite enjoyed it. I mean, if you want something sort of slightly darker at Christmas, and it turns out that it's killer elves, then this is the film for you. And of course, it's done that thing about, yes, it's set in a foreign country, but the central couple are American, so therefore most of the dialogue is in English.
Matthew in London. I can't quite believe how bad this film was.
Oh, really?
I paid £10 to stream it, and when my friends asked what it was, I explained the simple premise and that the good doctor enjoyed it, although he did say it wasn't gory enough.
Yeah.
But halfway through, my friends piped up, are you sure he liked this? Yes, I replied. He said it was enjoyable and often funny. Okay, they said, maybe something amazing is going to happen. What we sat through was not any terrible Christmas comedy, but also a dire horror film. It was the worst of both worlds.
But it's not a horror film.
Nada, none. The elves closed in, and at no point did I have any feeling that what they were going to do was hurt our protagonists. And spoiler alert, they largely don't. They just lurk and act
except for the bit
threatening.
When somebody goes through a snowplow.
The deaths are minimal and largely blood-free. The laughs are one-note and depressingly obvious. The acting is wooden, the script is dull. Honestly, Mark, how could you even lightly recommend this absolute bore fest? There were moments, almost always, when the Norwegian cast that garnered a few laughs, the police officer and the stall owner. But outside of that, good Lord, we couldn't wait for it to be over. A damp squib of a movie, a lifeless, limp, messy, blood-free excuse for both a comedy and a horror. Very, very disappointed, Matthew in London. I think he was disappointed.
Yeah. I'm finding this show quite hostile this week.
That's Matthew in London.
Well, I mean, look, I'm sorry that you did. I mean, hey, look, maybe I've just gone soft in the head, but I kind of laughed a few times and I kind of enjoyed it. And I thought the bit in which the Norwegian policewoman said that she had to get back because she was in the middle of Love Actually, and she was just at the bit when he turns up with the written boards.
I haven't seen it.
I thought it was very funny.
Okay, I should have mentioned Maestro, by the way, because that is kind of been there.
Well, it says not applicable because it's to do with it has a brief theatrical release.
It's a ta-da, and then it's
so a limited theatrical release, like
limited.
It's only playing in a certain number of cinemas. So we did a sort of a shorter review on last week's extra takes, and we'll review it properly. Ta-da! when it comes to Netflix. I
Rhiannon,
think it's all right.
Rhiannon Chapman, Simon and Mark, as a film fan who is also gay, I'd like to raise a point about gay face. Now, this
came up in the Jason interview,
because so one of the comments in advance of this Maestro film is that Leonard Bernstein, who is Jewish and gay, should be. People have said the opinion is that should be played by either a Jewish actor and maybe someone who's gay, or anyway. So this came up as a conversation point. So Rhiannon says there have obviously been many great examples of straight actors playing gay characters. For example, Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, all the way through to Cate Blanchett in Tar, and indeed George Mackay we could talk about as well in Femme. And I believe that straight actors should be able to play gay roles and gay queer actors should be able to play straight roles. Jason's clearly correct that you can't or shouldn't judge someone's sexuality by looking at them. However, the problem arises if the majority of the gay roles are cast with straight actors and all the straight roles continue to be cast with straight actors, and then we end up with no out gay actors in high-profile films. It's great that we now have more visibility than ever before of gay, trans and queer characters in TV and movies, but if this increased visibility of roles doesn't result in an uplift and increased visibility of gay actors and other creatives, it's only a half step forward. There can't be a blanket ban on straights playing gay. As much as anything else, we have to acknowledge that it's sometimes the high-profile straight actors' involvement gets a queer-themed film made, but it is a more complicated topic than it is occasionally presented to be. Up with feminists of all colours and down with homophobes. Rhiannon Chapman. Thank you, Rhiannon. So that's Maestro, which is out there. There's something in the barn, number 50, who've done that.
Can I just say on the subject of that, on the subject of the Tom Hanks thing, when Philadelphia was made and the issue of this was raised, I'm quoting Tom Hanks here, I believe I'm quoting him accurately. The issue was raised, somebody said, should this role not have gone to a gay man? And Tom Hanks said, okay, name me. In who? What it needs is name me the gay star that should have been doing it. The point that he was making at that point was that there were very, very few out gay actors, and so what he was saying was, you fine, you can say that, but that will only happen in a culture in which being out, you can still name in a fairly small number the number of out gay actors, because there's this whole thing, this really weird assumption that if you are out and gay, people won't believe you in heterosexual roles, which is completely nuts. Because it's acting. It's like, so. But I remember that was Tom Hanks's argument. Was it's not, tell me who the person is that you think should be doing this, because there isn't anyone who is at that point an A-list actor who was out and gay. And I thought it was a well-made point.
Yeah, and I remember discussing that when Philadelphia came out. It was such a to put that topic in the mainstream with an actor like Tom Hanks was an incredible thing.
Yeah, and for whatever may be right or wrong with that movie, it did absolutely, do its subject matter in the most mainstream way possible, and yeah.
Femme is at number 24.
Which I liked very much. I do think George Mackay is terrific in it. And I think it's a kind of really interesting, twisty, neo-noir thriller that plays very well with the kind of conventions of the genre that it's drawing upon. And I think he's great. And I think it's well directed, strong performances. You liked it?
Hattie in Berlin, grade 6 viola, approaching B2 German. I was delighted to hear your conversation with gorgeous George Mackay about his new film. My best friend Emily worked as a location manager on the film, and I hope that your listeners will A, go out and watch it in droves, and B, think, wow, what great locations and management thereof. I'm reliably informed that she had to relay a particularly fruity line down the phone to someone from the council in order to get approval to shoot a scene in a park. Whether she gave George a run for his money in the line delivery is unconfirmed. Huge well done to Emily, her esteemed colleague Hugo, and the entire cast and crew. I hope it'll get a German release soon so that I can go and see it on the big screen and proudly, yet code compliantly, exclaim when her name pops up on the credits.
Very good.
Thank you, Hattie. Number 11 is Eileen.
I think Eileen's terrific. I think it's got two great performances by Anne Hathaway and Thomasin McKenzie. Thomasin McKenzie, I think, is just a wonderful rising star. And this is directed by William Oldroyd, who did Lady Macbeth. And it is a again, twisty psychological thriller drawing on noir traditions, and it has some gasp out loud moments. And the best thing is to know simply that Anne Hathaway described it as Carol meets Reservoir Dogs, and you don't need anything else beyond that.
Number 10 is Fallen Leaves.
Again, this is Aki Kaurismäki, and I think Mubi are doing a Aki Kaurismäki season online, and they've released this in cinemas. I think it's one of Kaurismäki's most heartfelt films. It's got an incredibly eclectic soundtrack, which I love, but it's basically the story about two outsiders finding each other in difficult circumstances, and I thought it was very touching and moving and darkly comedic.
Ian says, just listen to Mark's review of Fallen Leaves, which I caught at a preview at the lovely Curzon Camden last week. Very much agreed with Mark and enjoyed the film, but did chuckle during his review when he said the film the couple watched at the cinema was Zombieland, before later likening director Aki Kaurismäki to Jim Jarmusch. This is because the film they see is not Zombieland.
No, it's not. It's
The Dead Don't Die,
yes,
directed, of course, by Jarmusch himself.
Yeah.
Although, for my money, whilst Jarmusch, is it a hard J?
Jarmusch.
Yes.
Jim Jarmusch.
Vampire flick, Only Lovers Left Alive is fantastic. The Dead Don't Die was rather disappointing and nowhere near as good as Zombieland.
Yeah. No, you're quite right, and my mistake.
Tiggity Tonk and down with my pal Gary, who's no doubt listening to this and groaning. Okay, very, very personal and slightly niche. Trolls Band Together at number 9.
Exactly what it says on the tin.
Marvels at, hang on. I've got 2 at number 9. Oh, there you go. 9th equal, Trolls Band Together and the Marvels.
Yeah, well, the Marvels, I mean, it's now dropping quite fast. I thought it was a mess of a film, okay. But we had a couple of emails from people who had really enjoyed it, and I'm glad they did. I just thought it was really messy.
We're putting Marvels at number 8.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Anyway, number 7 is Elf,
which is the 20th anniversary reissue of Elf. Once again, whenever you get to Christmas, suddenly the Christmas reissues turn up. Love Actually was in the charts last week, so now it's Elf's turn.
Saltburn at 6.
I like it more than you do, I think. I kind of really enjoy it. I think Barry Keoghan's terrific. I think that final, the Murder on the Dance Floor sequence is really good. And I felt like it was her growing as a filmmaker. Emerald Fennell, I thought she did really well. If your interview is still available as a podcast a couple of weeks ago, go and have a listen.
Animal at 5.
This wasn't press screened. This is an Indian Hindi language action drama directed by Sandeep Redivanga. I haven't seen it. If you have, send us a review.
Number 4 is the Beyoncé concert film Renaissance. Number 3 here. Number 5 in America is Wish,
which is the Disney celebrating its centenary film by basically, referencing its back catalogue in a film which is nothing like as good as many of the films that it references.
Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes at 2 here,
pretty
and
solidly.
2 in America.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we needed a prequel, but there it is. It's fine.
6 in America, but the UK number 1 is Napoleon. Dominic in Leeds. While sharing a pint with a mate in a cosy pub last week, I saw a bus drive past advertising Sir Ridley's new bioepic. A few sips later, another bus, same film advert. Onto the second pint and another bus, and this one was advertising a different film which appeared to be called Aponleon. Just like the reels playing out of order in a Tarantino movie, the sticker of the panels had created a new title. Inspired by this, not by the terrible trailer. I saw the movie a few days ago. It was preposterous nonsense.
Yes.
Thank you, Dominic. Becky in Peebles. My husband and I went to see Napoleon the other night. We were both fairly nonplussed, neither loving nor hating it. However, I was completely discombobulated when a particular piece of music was played, not once but twice, at moments when Napoleon and Josephine were together.
Was it Things Can Only Get Better by Dee Ream?
One of my, until recently I would have described as guilty pleasures, but at Simon's insistence, I now just call them pleasures. Excellent, Becky. Very good. Is 2005 film Pride and Prejudice starring Keira Knightley. It's comfort watching at its best for me, hence I know it pretty well. Therefore, I was really confused and completely taken out of the moment when Dawn by Dario Marianelli from Pride and Prejudice was played in Napoleon. Did anyone else notice this? No. It's not on the official soundtrack for Napoleon. I know lots of music is used in movies over and over again, and maybe this is just because I know the Pride and Prejudice film so well that I found it so jarring, but it was particularly written for Pride and Prejudice. Does this often happen? Music written for one film is used in another.
Well, that does happen quite a lot. I mean, sometimes it happens, referentially, like in the case of Quentin Tarantino, who is constantly taking pieces of music from, like, Twisted Nerve will turn up in Kill Bill, or a cue that was written specifically for William Friedkin's Cruising will turn up in Death Wish. So there's that. There's also then simply the taking a piece of music out of context, sometimes from another film, sometimes like in the case of the Adagio, it turns up everywhere, particularly in Manchester by the Sea. And I think it's a real shame that it does turn up in Manchester by the Sea because it takes you out of the film. And then, of course, The Artist, which, you know, famously uses music from Hitchcock. So it does happen. I didn't notice it happening in Napoleon.
And I guess if you are in love with that piece of music and Pride and Prejudice, you're going to go, oh.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird.
Where does that come from?
The place it happens quite a lot is in movie trailers. The Christopher Young's music for Jennifer 8 turned up in loads and loads of movie trailers, largely, I think, because nobody saw Jennifer 8. So they thought, I would just use that piece of music that Christopher Young did.
Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's Take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.